Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's movie blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well. And first off, blessed Good Friday to every person out there. For those who are following me on Twitter, you know that I did my Walk of 9 Churches. I got a lot of footage of that I'm going to put together and put on the secondary channel, Welcome to Asgard. So please click the eye above my head if you want to check out that channel and see that footage. And yeah, thank you so much just for all the support. But today we're going to be talking about the MCU and the future of the MCU, and is the future going to be good or is it going to be bad? And we're going to base this off of a couple of things. First off, the good, let's talk about those Endgame numbers, because Endgame is going to make a crap ton of money. So as we have here an article from Bounding Into Comics, it says Disney's box office expectations for Avengers Endgame have finally been revealed. It says Disney's box office expectations for the upcoming have been revealed. According to our source, Disney expects Avengers Endgame to make $250 million at the domestic box office on opening weekend. They expect it to go on to make $750 million in its entire box office run, and that is talking specifically about the domestic numbers. Now here's the thing, I honestly think they're lowballing this. I think that they're lowballing this because they know they've got a massive hit on their hands. Now I know that some people are trying to put out there saying, hey, you know, $750 million, that's about as much as a film can really make in the United States, as far as just the domestic numbers are concerned. Here's the thing. Look at movies, for example, like Black Panther that made around $700 million domestically. If you're going to tell me that this film is going to make only $50 million more than that film domestically, I'm sorry, but there's just something not quite about that number. I honestly think that this is a film that could theoretically and potentially make $1 billion here, and also more than $1 billion overseas. As I said, this movie has the potential to finally be able to reach the $3 billion mark. Now, is it going to? That's that's the big question. It's a giant question mark because it depends on how well it does opening weekend. I would say that $1 billion opening weekend is totally within reach, I would say, especially if they surpass that $250 million opening domestically and do crazy amounts of money overseas, which I really do think they're going to do, especially since they're already breaking records left and right with the pre-sales. Oh, but haven't you been saying that pre-sales don't matter? Pre-sales don't really matter that much unless those pre-sales are selling out almost every single theater, not just opening night, but also over the weekend as well. I mean, if you go ahead and look at any theater right now, for that week, again, which almost a week, a little over a week away at this point, we honestly have a situation here where you're going to find most theaters are going to at least have sold maybe about half their auditorium at this point, and they still got a lot of time to be filled. And on top of that, the fact that theaters, at least the theaters near me, are adding show times to the Thursdays. It has not happened in a long time where they've had to add the 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. shows because it really hasn't been that great at the box office lately. This is a film, though, obviously 11 years in the making, the 22nd of the, the entire franchise, the end of an entire saga of filmmaking, and it's going to make a crap ton of money because of that. So I think Disney here, obviously this is a source from and for Bounding Into Comics, and so obviously this number won't be necessarily an official number, but I would say that this number is definitely lowballing it. I could see this film making well north of $300 million domestically opening, and I mean, good God, who knows how much it'll make in the foreign market. But as I said, I'm feeling the $1 billion mark opening weekend. I think it's going to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest opening for any film of all time. And again, when you've been building a film up for over a decade, and when you have so many films in your canon, and when you have such a great marketing strategy, and when everyone is already buying out and selling out tickets before the movie's even been released yet, and also on top of that being a 3-hour runtime to boot, I really do think that that shows the amount of enthusiasm that is currently behind the Marvel brand, especially when it comes to the Avengers and also all the other films that have led up to it on this point. Now, does that mean, though, that Endgame is going to mean the future of the MCU is going to look very bright? Well, here's just the thing. I think that at the end of the day, there are some questions that are out there as to whether or not the directions that they seem to be wanting to go with the future of the MCU is going to be enough to hold on to those people that are likely going to want to give up after this. Again, it's been made clear before, there are going to be a few people dying off. There's going to be at least one. Again, I would say at least one major character, because I think that there's going to be a bunch of people that probably leave or die off, but I think there's going to be at least one major character, like a Captain Marvel, either a Captain America, if only Captain Marvel, Captain America, or Thor, or Hulk, or one of those guys, one of the big ones, Iron Man, of course. But also I could see a world where some of them stay on too. The problem, though, is that when they start talking about these bigger characters and, by attachment, these bigger actors leaving, it leaves a lot of open-ended nonsense potentially coming down the pipe of them trying to essentially bring woke characters and woke storylines into the MCU, which I honestly think and ultimately think will eventually lead the MCU into making not nearly as much. Again, the normies are only going to support you so far, and Endgame is going to be a film that's going to make a crap ton of money. It's what happens after Endgame. How much does Spider-Man make? How does that, how much does Far From Home make? How much does the first MCU film after that, not just a Sony MCU collaboration, but the first standalone MCU film post Infinity Saga, post Endgame, actually do at the box office? I think that is going to be a very big indication as to how many fans are still watching and how many aren't. As I said, I think that it's going to take several years before we start to see any major drop-offs, and that's only contingent upon them going in a direction that most fans do not want them to go in. What are some things going against this? What are some things going for it? Well, let's start off with the positive element of it. For one, Disney has said now that they own the Fox properties, which means they now own Deadpool, that they are not going to change Deadpool. At least so says Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige. Marvel Studios president says Deadpool movies won't change now that Disney owns X-Men's rights. The Mouse House finalized its purchase of Fox's assets last month, giving it full control of IPs like Avatar, Alien, The Simpsons, to name a few. But also gave Disney the rights to both the Fantastic Four and X-Men films, which include the Ryan Reynolds-led Deadpool and its sequel, not to mention the PG-13 Once Upon a Deadpool cut. Of course, this begs the question, what will happen next for the franchise? And of course, I'm not going to continue walking this because it's a screen rant, but still, good news nonetheless. Positive. Can we honestly think that Deadpool could be a saving grace for this franchise now that it can officially be a part of the MCU? You could have a movie that goes in a certain direction, but just have him pop in and kind of cause hell, and it would change a lot of people's minds. It might actually change the perception of certain characters or certain things that happen, certain story arcs, storylines and story arcs that you try to do. Again, could potentially be the ace in the hole. He's my ace in the hole. Really could be the Deadpool character. So that's very good news. Don't change him. Let Ryan Reynolds continue to rock this performance and rock this role, and give us another Deadpool film. And also, not just that, bring him into the MCU. You know what would be amazing? And they're not going to do it for Endgame because it's just too close to the Fox deal. It'd be great to have like a Avengers film or a regular MCU film, and then all of a sudden you have a Deadpool cameo. That would be fantastic, because fans would love it. Everyone would think that it's great, and also it'd be a way for you to build up not only another Deadpool film, but also Deadpool being in other franchises, being a part of the universe in other places. That could be really cool. So again, we got a positive element here, but we also got these other things going on, as I was saying before, with certain actors being rumored to be leaving, certain characters being rumored to have been being killed off. Now people are starting to think about, oh, so wait a minute, remember how there's now a female Thor and it's not doing very well in the comics and no one really wants it in the comics? Maybe there's a couple of people that say, oh my gosh, that's totally what I want. No, it's Thor. Not only is it a comic character, it's also based off of Norse mythology. You kind of can't play around with that all that much, especially when it's like you will possess the power of Thor. Well, Thor possesses the power of Thor, and it seems to be contingent upon that very fact. And yet they're now playing around with the idea of a female Thor film coming out for the 4th film. Really hope that this is not the case. Really hope not. I would love to see Thor 4. I would love to see Taika Waititi come back to take on this role, and I would love for it to have certain characters. And, if they want to have a certain storyline, if they want to have a larger storyline with Valkyrie, I'm okay with that. I'm one of the persons that I still defend. To this day, I still defend Tessa Thompson's performance in that movie as Valkyrie. There's some people that's trying to say, oh, well, talking about history, historically they were a light-skinned and white group of people, and so how could you have a person of color as a Valkyrie? And for me, I'm like, I don't really care about that because they're also comic characters. Now, it's a little bit different because if you're changing the gender of a person, that's a little bit too far because obviously Thor is a male, but of course that is the direction that things want to be going in today's world. But if they want to bring Valkyrie in and make her more of a, leading character, go right ahead. As long as you do it well, as long as you don't try to shoehorn it in, as long as you allow Tessa Thompson to do just what she did last time, can give her good lines, give a good story on top of that, hey, that could be fun. That could be a lot of fun. But don't bring in this stupid storyline that no one's buying into. Go ahead and look at the comic sales. No one's buying this. Same thing goes for the amazing Iron Man ripoff of, what was it, Iron Heart, I think is the character, the female Iron Woman. And guess what? No one's buying the comic. It's so interesting because I actually looked down at the numbers. You can find this on Wikipedia, among other places. And what it shows you is that they introduced that character in an Iron Man comic, and then every single sale, every single issue, the numbers dropped, as they tend to do. And then when they finally announced that they were going to do their own separate female Iron Man comic after that fact as a jumping off point, the opening issue release, the number of issues sold, was not even close to what the smallest amount of issues sold for the Iron Man comic that it had been based on was. Meaning that no one had any interest, no one wanted to see it, and then it just dropped and fell off the map. No one wants these characters, and it's not anything to do with their gender. It has nothing to do with their race. It has everything to do with, are they well written? I mean, look at Miles Morales in Spider-Man. That is a character that some people could probably try and argue might be, oh, how is Miles Morales not woke? Well, he might be, or it might have been intended to be that way, but guess what? They wrote a good story. They wrote a good character, and people were able to buy into it. Again, Spider-Man was a great film. The Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, other than the animation, which I had some issues with, it was a great film. Because you were able to look past all of those other things that they might want you to look at, that they might say, oh, this is the reason why we did this project this way. But at the end of the day, if you're telling a good story, that's kind of going to, get everything lost in translation. No one's really going to understand that because guess what? You're telling a good story and people are going to enjoy that no matter what. So as you can see, there are ways in which the MCU could continue to succeed. Again, you have a film coming out that's expected to break, a crap ton of money, make a crap ton of money, break a crap ton of records on top of that. Again, lowballing this figure here, I honestly think it's going to be closer to the $3 billion by the end of its run. 2.5 to $1 billion would be my final range if I had to put a range out there. Again, seeing that the first Infinity War made $2 billion, this film's going to make even more because there's just so much more hype for it. Now, obviously, first and second weekend will tell us a little bit more about that, and my numbers will probably change based off of that, but just based on pre-sales alone, and also based on the sentiment and based off of all the years of build-up for it, hey, I got to put that number out there. But then you also have just as many things that can, say that can, pull it back down. With them trying to go with these stories that don't even work in the comics, and if they don't even work with the comics, why do you think it's going to work in the MCU? Why do you think it's going to work within the film world either? Now, again, you could take these characters that no one wants, and you could tell a good story, and then you could change people's minds. Absolutely, that could totally happen. And if you write a good story with a good character, doesn't matter what the character is based off of, even if the origin of the character is total and utter crap in a comic or in a book or anything like that, you can change perception with a well-written story. But if Captain Marvel is any indication of that, they took a character that no one really wanted and no one's reading in the comics, that has been had to be rebooted several times just to keep her relevant, and yet they were able to make that a billion-dollar franchise. But the question is, are they going to be able to do that with every character? And if they start to have this trend of, oh, you see, look, we're being diverse in front of, behind the camera, and this is the agenda. We're not trying to tell you good stories. We're just trying to push the agenda. It's going to turn a lot of people off. Again, the normies are going to be the ones that are going to be the easiest scared. The ones that are going to, flee fastest. And you're already in the process of burning your, hardcore comic fans. And so who are you going to be left with? That's going to be the big question. What do you guys think? Do you think they're going to go in this direction? Do you think that they'll embrace maybe the Deadpool? They'll embrace the good things that they know fans want? Or do you honestly think that they don't care about that? They don't care about what fans want. They'd rather push an agenda and try and say that anyone that's against it is a racist or is a sexist, even though we all know that that is just so far from the truth. I would love to hear your thoughts on all of this and the future of the MCU. And also, what do you think Endgame is going to make? Do you think it's going to make $3 billion by the end of its run? Do you think that $250 domestically opening weekend is a little bit on the low side? I think it is. I think it's going to make even more than that domestically, which is a gigantic number. Love to hear your thoughts on that as well. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching the video. If you like this video, smash the like button, give me a thumbs up, give me a subscribe. My voice is tired because it's been a long day. I've been walking since 8:30 this morning, and it's been crazy. But anyway, thank you guys. Have a wonderful day. Blessed Good Friday. And as always, God bless.